Hey there! Bob from Oregon's Constant Gardener. Welcome to the OCGFAM show. To you, my YouTube buddies, viewer questions 33. Scott, what's up?
Bob.
There's some duplicate questions in here, so
We'll find out when we hit them.
Anthony Miller. I live in Tucson, Arizona. The water comes out of the sink at 8.9. It's a pain in the ass. Should I flush with Gaia? At what number? No? Yeah.
I don't even know what the...
What's
the slurry? What's the root zone? What's the soil doing?
Well,
what are we looking at?
And we're talking about the water here, so you
you can't flush your water.
No.
The water has to be adjusted.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
So if you get your water straight away, okay, this is a good question. Let me posit it to you this way. Posit, is that a word? Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have this issue, would you deal with it in the water, in the soil, or both? I mean, so would you get some down and deal with your water?
No, I'd be fixing my water first.
And you would be fixing your water,
but
like
I'd be doing, I mean, the downfall is 8.9. I don't want to add a bunch of phosphoric acid to make it 7 and then add food and then bring it back up because then you're just adding a lot of phosphates you don't need. So unfortunately, you know, this is when a reverse osmosis machine is going to be your best friend.
Sure, you just have to.
Even if you cut it half and half, if you can take half your water, use RO, you know, let's say you put 10 gallons of RO and then 10 gallons of tap, your pH is going to be closer to 7.
Sure.
You're going to get all the benefits of what's in that 8.9 without having, no matter what we do, that pH in your soil is going to continue to rise because we can arrest the pH, but all we're doing is making that calcium or whatever that hardness is, we're making that go into the soil and then start build up there, and then all of a sudden our soil pH is going to start climbing out of control, and that's going to be even harder to deal with. So it's better just to deal with the water. And really, if you had to go out and get an RO, or even go buy distilled or RO and cut that to half and get it, your starting point a lot lower. Flushing it, I mean, that would be a cure if the soil pH starts getting too high, but you know, you're not going to. I mean, 8.9, you'd have to put 4 ounces of Gaia in there to get it to 7.
And you'd just be fighting that back again at every turn.
Well, it's just going to hydrolyze everything that's in that 8.9 and make it available for the plant. And whatever the plant doesn't absorb, it's just going to build up into soil or convert back. So I'd fix the water via filtration or medium and then start adjusting it because that's going to be a problem.
And then looking at your soil is where you'd be in a Gaia. But hopefully you never get to that point because you're fixing this thing, because this water is untenable as a full-on water. You're gonna have to split this with something to get there.
No, and I've been working with somebody in Missouri, and they're having an issue. Their water comes out at 10. And it's like, so they put calcium chloride in there to the point where it's so hard. Well, the alkalinity's 40, but the pH is 10, which tells me there's 0 calcium carbonate in there. It's all sodium and all chloride.
Well, I would assume, I mean, we sit here and don't think about this, but we're like, oh, you'd have to buy an RO system. You probably have one because you're needing to drink water. Oh, yeah. You know, well, so you're either drinking bottled or you're...
Most people do when they're in regions like that.
Wow.
I mean, we're blessed in Oregon. We've got clean water, but like you can't drink tap water in Michigan without getting cancer. I mean, it's just PFAS and everything back there.
Jesus.
So, yeah, it's... That 8.9 though, I would get a RO machine because you're just going to battle soil pH for the rest of your time, I believe. I mean, if you haven't been, I'm not sure how you're avoiding it. But
it would be surprising.
Or you can send me your city's water lab, and we can take a look to see what the ingredients are that are causing this 8.9, because it's not always calcium carbonate.
Okay.
It can be calcium chloride for the use as a cleaner, and that chloride will create a super high pH, which is, you know, undrinkable. So send me your lab and I'll let you know what there is in there, and then we can figure out how we can, or at least figure out what we can do to neutralize the high pH element of that water. But just using pH down or Gaia, or, you know, you'd have to use so much, you'd probably just be overfed over time. Because I would imagine if you mix all the food up with this 8.9, you're still not even at 7.
No, you're
not
getting
above it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Good answer. Good answer. M. Gonzalez. Hey, Bob. How would Scott suggest using Apollos and Plutos in an autoflower regimen? Also in a feed tea, feed flush, how often are you spraying Bloom Chaos? Are you spraying every feed or a few times during that week? Thanks in advance to you, my YouTube buddies. So first off, Pluto and Apollo in autoflower. Any difference with autoflower over just any other?
It's same. One application in veg, a couple applications during bloom. You know, if you have a sense of these autoflowers and when they trigger the date, like, you know, 5 weeks in, they go from veg and convert over, then, you know, apply that Pluto, that first sign of flowering, in about 3.5 weeks after you see the first sign of flowering. That way you've got your 2 applications in, and then you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the
So
summer.
you're going to be on a shorter time frame or a longer time frame, depending on how your autoflower matches up to whatever you were doing other than that.
Yep.
So but you would split it up evenly, kind of get in there.
Yeah, and get the Apollo in when you transplant in the veg, and then that's your one
halfway to the
application
end.
there. That's all you need.
Okay.
No, not even. Like, put your plant in.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which
most
plant
people
put it
that
in?
grow,
Go.
yeah, they're just going to grow in your soil with your plants.
Right,
So
okay.
one application of Azos or Apollo is fine for autoflower, and then Pluto just twice. Once at the first sign of flower and about halfway through flowering.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. Okay.
Oh, and then the chaos,
Yeah, chaos.
Unless you're going full throttle with Herc feedings every day, basically I don't over apply chaos to how many times I feed. So if I'm doing a feed and then I wait 2 days and I feed, then I'll do chaos every other day.
Okay.
If I'm feeding every day, I can chaos every day, but I don't like to because it kind of builds this, I have to feed them every day if I start applying it every day. So the more you apply it, the more you're going to find that you're going to need to keep up with feeding it. So I like to keep it to about 3 a week, and that's to me is like a good autopilot. It keeps things moving, aggressive, but not to the point where I'm a slave to feeding my plants.
So this isn't you trying to make the plant eat more, it's you trying to, you managing how much you want to feed the plant.
Yeah, and finding that there's a diminishing return at some point of, if I feed them every single day with this much chaos and I'm still only getting 3 pounds of light, then what's the point if I can get the same weight on half the applications? So over applying it's not gonna, well, it could kill everything if you do it wrong, but I would just say when you feed is a good time that you can foliar feed with chaos.
Perfecto.
Safe, anyway.
Okay. I've been using Nectar, probably Nectar is probably a typo there, for 6 years. I use it in my flower and vegetable garden. Oh, this is MJW. I use it in my flower and vegetable garden along with my other garden. All I have to say is I feed heavy both ways using Bloom Chaos. I always flower my vegetables and flower still. Getting a little, there's some typos in here. So feed my vegetables and my flowers 2 tablespoons per gallon. We're gonna skip this question, all right? It's a mess. There was some typos in there. Don Juan, the question.
No, I'm just trying to get through it.
Can you make some? You got? I don't know if there's even really a question there. He's just like, I think this shouldn't have been in there. It's just kind of he's telling what he does. Okay, let's go to Don Juan.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah,
I gotta look better when I do the questions.
Huh?
I gotta look better when I do the questions. I gotta really, really dig in.
Actually be able to see if you can read them.
So,
That's a good start.
I
can read these questions. We'll start with these.
Don Juan. This question is for wacky tobacco growers. It's somewhat of an old question that has been asked before, but I think people may be getting bad slurry numbers depending on the water used. When Scott was helping me with my water selection and getting me going, he had me do a slurry with my tap and one with distilled 7.0 water. The slurry with my tap was off for some reason, so Scott told me to use the distilled for my slurries, and it hasn't failed me yet. Question, is it distilled or the water that you were using to feed? In my opinion, to get accurate soil numbers, the distilled would be the best.
Oh, to feed with?
Yeah, to feed with. If you're measuring with distilled for your slurries, do you have to feed with the distilled?
You don't have to, but at least you have an idea of what's going into the ground. So like this guy up here with 8.9, if you're doing a slurry with 8.9, you're not going to get an accurate reading on what your slurry is telling you because that 8.9 is going to affect everything that's in that soil that's slurrying. So with him, it'd be, if you're going to do the distilled, you're going to get the slurry, then it's better to be closer to that distilled when you feed.
Because you'd see a trend, but you may be way off in your actual number and have a real problem that you don't know that you have a problem.
Right.
Okay.
Until you see it. But yeah, no, I mean, and like with Don Juan, same scenario is, his water was just off enough to where if we were doing slurs with that, we were getting inaccurate numbers, inconsistent numbers. They were kind of bouncing here and there. So we went to distilled to really make sure that we were getting that accurate point. And that's when, it's not every single grow is the same. Because if you have 7.2 water that varies from 6.9 to 7.4, I'd still use that over distilled because you're getting
Sure.
all the trace elements and minerals and everything that comes with it. But in some cases, like Arizona or Missouri, where your stuff's just so out of the realm,
There's just no way to make it
stick
work.
with distilled or RO.
Okay.
I don't like RO water for slurring because it's so reactive. It's wanting to bond. So when you're using RO, it wants to grab everything immediately and start structuring the water. So it's going to give you a slightly false reading in your slurries because it's rebuilding itself. So it's taking something and turning it into something, so you're not going to get that reading that's accurate.
Process going on beyond
chemical reaction that's fast. So
okay.
RO is great for naked water that you're rebuilding to make feed work, but for slurries, I don't like it as much as distilled.
So you're using this. You're using the water to make this wet, so that you can measure it with a meter.
Pretty much.
Not trying to react it to the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Raymond M. Cabier. How often? I probably don't have that right, but I took a shot. How often do you use a feed? A feed flush sounds like a bit much for vegetables.
Yeah. Well, it depends on the frequency. So I do a feed tea, but it's over like a 10-day period of time. No, you're right. It's, for like all these vegetables in my garden, I basically built the soil up. I have the amendments in there in the root zone, and then I come back through and I feed them basically once a week. I give everything here a good, about a 10-gallon per bed feeding, and depending on the season or what the plants are, the different recipes will come for each garden. But it's about once a week. Corn's been getting a little bit more lately, and my kale's been getting a little bit more because I'm trying to get a whole nother re-veg going so I can get a lot of kale leaves, because once you juice them, they start going away fast. And then my root crops I feed probably twice a week. And then teas are just a matter of, when I can brew a compost tea or when I'm just going to throw some microbes in. But I don't follow the cannabis model when I'm gardening because it's not a, most of your plants, if you fed them that aggressively, would die of over-fertilization. They're just not that hungry of a feeder. So, I would stick with 1 to 2 feedings a week, up to 3 if you have plants that are just not taking it from the soil. At least with the liquids, you can kind of make them eat, and then they'll start acclimating back to the soil.
So, but you're out here with a water jug every day, or you got some soakers, or no?
Yeah, everything here is on drip and irrigation. So every morning, everything gets 1 to 3 gallons an hour. For the day, and then I'll come back like if we have 95-degree day.
You're looking at it to see.
Yeah, I'll hit the corn right now because you can see the corn is set, and you got all the husks on there. They want more water right now in the root zone so they can start swelling up. So I'll come and hit them once a day with a little extra, and then
you see some droopy leaves, or you
just kind of tomatoes are consuming more than I can give them right now. So either increase this whole line, which is strawberries, lettuce, and tomatoes,
or you come in and supplement to keep them.
And I did put ball valves on everything, so this bed I can isolate off, and this bed. So if I need to go to 3 feedings here every day, I'll just turn these off and water them 3 times.
I gotcha.
But drip irrigation is Rainbird. You have a lot of plastic, but I'll tell you what, they sure
and I'm
make
sure
life easy.
You probably save water doing that too, because it's
water, time, energy. But I do like the garden and being in it, so it's like I don't mind coming out. But if I'm just picking things and eating things, it's much nicer.
That's more fun than dragging the jug around. All right. Fatback Gardens. Since the tomatoes like nitrogen so much, what do you think about switching out the Herc for Triton? Now, with a vegetable, you probably could, but would you?
No, and I mean, I would
you get
just
what he's
add.
Saying,
Oh yeah, no, and I mean, these are Herc fed from start to finish. The nice thing about Herc is there is this very mild nitrogen protein in the bone meal that does become available. More importantly, I'm going so I get 0 blossom end rot, and Triton's is not going to give me that protection as much as Herculean bone meal has that calcium that's going to keep the blossom end rot away. I mean, you can't find one brown bottom on any of these tomatoes, and it's literally because of the Herc, plus the size. Now, adding Tritons to the Herc will benefit them to give them that nitrogen protein that comes from the fish part of the bone meal. So it's not a bad idea, but I wouldn't switch them out because the #1 issue with tomatoes is blossom end rot and blight, and that is all calcium related. So keeping your Herc, keeping your Demeters, and then adding Tritons would just make it a nicer blend.
So someone coming from a more synthetic type grow may think that maybe, it needs nitrogen, but not discounting that calcium is what it needs more
most,
so than
most NPK guys can't pick up the calcium concept, so they just think we're crazy. And I just laugh at them because our shit doesn't taste like hay. So, and that's the other thing, when you're pumping a lot of nitrogen, what you have to remember, what accompanies nitrogen on the intake of the plant is water. And the things that make blossom end rot more aggressive is when that little tiny bloom, this little flower right here is breaking off the bottom. If that has any excess water in it, it will rot that connection.
Of course.
And that tiny little brown spot will just grow as the tomato grows. So as your tomato's this big, the brown spot's that big. If it's this big, it's a tiny little dot. And that's usually because I've overwatered, I've depleted the calcium load, and there's so much nitrogen in the plant, it's literally trying to bleed it out or sweat it out through transpiration. They like to transpire right through those flower sites, which will create the blossom end rot. So I'm not nitrogen when I say these like nitrogen, I like to give them feather protein. I like to give them amino acids and fats and, you know, like pig skin, you know, Athena. They like that nitrogen to keep them green, cell division, nice and strong. But when you start really getting into the nitrates like heavy fish fertilizers and blood meals and guanos, it's so much nitrogen so fast, and the plant sucks it all up, but they take up all that water with it, and then you get all the
water's got to come out, and that's exactly where it's coming out, and it's not good because
it wants to.
Because you'll see like a little black spot there, or
I haven't had a blossom end rot on my peppers or my tomatoes in at least 12 years, and it's just once a week feeding. It's just you don't have the problem. So Tritons would help. It would be a great way to keep the green in there, keep them aggressively growing, but it would not solve the blossom end rot. So together, great. Separate, like one or the other, I would avoid Triton.
Okay. All right. Good answer. Good answer. ZKDK. All right. Yeah. Scott mentioned BT on the last viewer's question. I purchased Captain Jack BT, and I'm following the recommended application. Is there a specific brand you use, and what would you recommend for application? The corn looks really healthy. So what is BT?
The Bacillus thuringius, when we were seeing the butterfly flying around. So it's basically a living organism that will hitch it on the back of the caterpillar worm and basically bore out its brain. So it's very aggressive biological that is very safe for your garden and safe for most of your...
bad for the worm, good for your fruit.
Bad for caterpillars. And really, caterpillar specific. So they don't go after bees. They're not going after ladybugs. They want the caterpillar. And that's why I'm like... So you see there's no moths flying around anymore. That was our day. We got it. I got my BT out. I have not seen any issues yet. But so I'm not sure on the brand, Captain Jack. I'm sure it's just a Bacillus thuringius. I'd follow whatever guidelines they tell you. I'm not a pesticide agent, and I don't have a pesticide applications license, so I can't tell you. But if you follow the application, and then literally 2 to 3 applications is all you need. You don't have to keep applying BT, because once the butterflies are gone, they're no longer laying eggs, and there's no longer laying little caterpillars behind. So get the 3 applications, then stop, because if you keep applying, you're gonna, the actual butterflies that are living can be killed by BT. So when you see the big swallowtail moving through, or monarch, and you keep applying BT because you're so afraid, you're just doing more harm to the environment than not. But follow the directions on the bottle. I use Bonide's BT only because I've worked in gardening and farming for so long. It's just the standard. It's Bonide products.
It's an agricultural product. It is a set in stone kind of. This is the formula. Everyone's doing the same thing.
And Bonide is well known for natural and chemical pesticides. So you can go down their whole list and find things that work naturally, like spinosad and neem oil, BT, and all the way up to the hardcore, nerve killers. So. But with that Captain Jack's, I know the brand, I've heard of it. I'm not sure on that product itself, but if it has BT at a decent percentage, a couple applications, follow the recommendations on the back, and don't over-apply. Over-applying kills it's harmful to the good bugs, so just don't over-apply.
Don't do it.
And sometimes just leave the bugs. I mean, not the butterflies in cannabis. They eat your buds. But, like I had an aphid problem on my kale, so I don't care. I'll just wash them off before I juice. But you can see all these bees everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere.
I set up a bee fountain.
Oh, nice.
See that bucket over there?
Yeah.
So it's just
with the rocks and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not like cool hippie pretty art. It's literally a bucket of mud, swill, and sticks for bees to drink water out of.
Nice.
And they want the smell of earth. They want it to be kind
Yeah,
of
they
dirty.
want to know that it's,
They don't want fresh water, it's fresh chlorine or anything. So by bringing that in, I've created this entire atmosphere, environment of these beneficials, wasps, hornets, bees, and they have cleaned every aphid off of every piece of kale, every piece of broccoli without me spraying a single thing on them. So
it's like the buffet in Vegas for them.
it really is. But, you know, the downfall is it's only rice.
Well. There's no crab legs. No crab legs.
It's all one mono crop of fat little aphids, but they're doing a great job.
Okay, Guy Bryson. Hey Bob, how's it going, buddy? I had a question. What if you were growing tomatoes, leafy greens, hot peppers, bell peppers, watermelon, strawberries, cucumbers, eggplant inside all year round? What feeding chart would work for soilless mediums like cocoa and nectar? Number 4, soil. I have all of your products too, by the way. So he has the full thing to work with. If you were trying to grow an indoor garden of a vegetable garden, what would you specialize in some of those things, or would you?
You know, I stick with the 6 main, Medusa, Gaia, Zeus, Athena, Hurricane, Demeters.
Yeah.
And then I'll toss Chaos in here a couple times for triggering bloom in the tomatoes, triggering the bloom in the peppers, but I don't over apply, especially indoors, because it's a different light energy, a different growth pattern, so I don't try to over accelerate their growth with Chaos, but I stick with just what's in the sample kit, and then maybe we'll toss in, you know, 1 or 2 other products halfway through the rotation.
Something fun and see what works for you.
Yeah.
And no foliar in this whole thing?
Well, I mean, you certainly can. Like with the Chaos, to get more pepper sites, I foliar feed them. Yeah. But all my vine crops, I don't foliar feed vine crops. I don't foliar feed tomatoes. They do not like it.
No.
So I stay away from those. And a lot of things like broccoli, it's so waxy and it just doesn't want the foliar.
It just doesn't. Okay.
So I don't do a whole lot of foliar feeding on most of my vegetables out here, only because there's just no.
So maybe just the peppers would probably be about the only thing. And then you'd be root feeding the rest of it. And you'd be feeding it, would you be feeding it more often, less often indoors?
You know, I'd still add some one shot right into my soil, but then, and I'd use number 4, because if I'm doing cocoa only, you're feeding them every other day, no matter what.
You're going to have a $5,000 watermelon.
Holy crap! Yeah, it won't pencil out. The market's cheaper.
Yeah.
But if you're at, you know, 2 to 3 feedings a week in the number 4 soil, or 2 feedings a week with some one shot built in, that's really all you need. And some of these crops, I mean, once your peppers start going and they look healthy, you could do once a week feedings until they get a little bit more hungry.
But you will get a nicer crop, and you will get a more prodigious crop.
You'll get more production.
And you'll get more dense production is probably what you're looking for if you're indoors. You want more peppers on your pepper plant. Yeah. Because you can't. Yeah.
And if you're under one of these new LEDs, I mean, I would be surprised if you can't out yield indoors with some of these things, because you don't have weather and you don't have the season. You literally are like, I can run this pepper for 6 months. That pepper is going to last 3.5, 4 months, but it took 3 months just to get mature enough to make.
There. Yeah.
But now you can keep them for 6 more months, just constantly producing.
On the tail end of it with longevity.
Oh yeah, I mean, we've had habaneros that are 7 years old. The trees are 7 years old because we've been able to take them in and outside throughout every season. Back when on Laura Street, we used to have a Butte Jalokia with a trunk on it like that. And it was 8 years old. That was like, holy crap.
So do you have some sort of greenhouse thing going on, or do you just have an indoor grow room? And would a greenhouse work the same as an indoor grow room would work if you were going in and out, that kind of sort of thing?
Oh, well, for the in and out, it was more of like, we brought it in during the winter into an indoor grow room and then brought it back out. I think even in a greenhouse in a lot of climates, it's still too cold outside. I mean, you can do cold cropping, but habanero indoors.
You're still not gonna. You're gonna have to be in your house in a room.
You still have to be 70 degrees, and if you can't be 70 outdoors in the winter in a greenhouse, a lot of these tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, they won't do well in a 50-degree greenhouse. So indoor.
Okay. Good answer. I think it just pasted twice or something. All right. Okay.
Which one did we just do?
We just did Guy Bryson. My thing keeps moving around too. Okay, so this one's about BT. So tomatoes, nitrogen. I think it just. I had a pasting issue, I think, and my granddaughter was active.
My runoff pH.
So yeah, so which one?
On patrol for the juice. Looks like third from the bottom.
Okay. Okay, here we go. On patrol for the juice. My runoff pH in cocoa is currently 5.4. I'm in week 5 of flower with no signs of deficiencies. I want to correct it with the next water, which will be a flush. I forgot to check ppm when I checked the runoff, and I saw that it was low. My plan is to water with a pH of 6.8 and try to flush the newts out and then test the ppm and pH of the runoff. Then, does that sound like a good idea? No, it sounds like a terrible idea. Don't have to worry about the runoff.
Well, runoff, give me a slurry from the upper half, because
Yeah.
everything being pushed down is everything the plant didn't want. So you probably have a excess of acids down there, but don't flush if you don't even know what the ppm's yet, because if you flush and it's at 200 and you want to get rid of the no food to zero food,
Yeah.
then you could actually trigger them into a starvation mode when then they're going to be mad at you.
Yeah, and then we're just...
Yeah,
off
I'm
to the
guessing
races.
you're probably more like 6'7", probably 6'3", 6'4" in the upper strata of that root zone. And if that's the case, check the ppms. I mean, I don't really want to answer until I get an actual slurry. The runoff only I mean, your runoff right now in the slurries, or I mean in your runoff, your ppms in your runoff, if your pH is this, it's probably 1,200 parts per million. Because it's all the stuff you've pushed down every watering that the plant doesn't even want anyway, so it's not even trying to access. Yeah, it's gone. It doesn't want it. It's pushed it beyond its absorbing root hairs. So get me that slurry on the very top. And I know there's so many people that just don't want to do slurries, or they think it's... I can't help with runoff numbers only because it's literally the filtration of what's coming out of the bottom of a filter medium.
Yeah.
So I need to know what's being held up in the medium where the roots can access, not what's being pushed out of the bottom that's waste. So I would check your slurry and then get back to us. And you can email that direct to me at thebeard@organsonly. Put it back in the comments where your first question was, or we'll find it. But let's get the actual info so we can get you on the right path.
What's a slurry test? How do you do it easily? You take some dirt, you mix it with some water in a little cup so that it's wet.
Equal parts.
Equal parts. You put your stick in there, your pH meter and your ppm meter, and you get a reading off there.
Yep. Equal parts soil to water, and the soil you're using, and literally, like, if this is your container, I want to be, and the soil levels here, I want to get it from this area. Not down here. Down here is where it's all being pushed, but this area right here is where they're going to be eating.
Top of the plant in a little bit. Make a little scoop in there, get some dirt. Drop it in a thing. However much that is, fill it to the top with that much with that much water. Give it a little mix with your finger. Maybe not your finger.
I do.
And then just stick your meter in there, get a reading, write it down, do another one in a couple weeks.
Yeah, or in 4 days, or 3 in a row. I mean,
just get an idea what's going on.
Yeah, once you learn the pattern and you start to see the trend, then the plant will actually show you before you even take the slurry. Yeah. I've got guys now that can look at their plant and go, I bet you that's going to be, and they're pretty much on point because they've done it enough.
You've calibrated your eyes to the plant through this metering system.
It's a pain in the ass for the first month. After that, it is just it's just the normal thing for you to do. And
I think a lot of times it's a fear, uncertainty, and doubt situation.
Oh, sure.
Where it's not that you're afraid to take the soil out, not afraid to mix. You're afraid that you're not doing it right.
Yep.
You're afraid that the results aren't right. You're afraid that the results are way off. But there's very little to lose from doing this.
What's wrong is the 5.4. Is that if your root zone was 5.4 and they look great, then you're not using any nectar products because none of our stuff is really available at 5.4. Holy shit. That's a ball face tornado. Oh, now you just pissed it off.
I'll show you what to... I'll get him. Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off!
I'm telling you.
That's what you... Fuck off!
No, those things have a memory. They actually hate people. There he is. Right by your bench.
Motherfucker!
That was crazy. He was on your neck.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
I hate those motherfuckers.
Well, you saw my face.
I know.
That was the thing that did it to me.
Oh, well, I have a different strategy for bees.
Well, I'm not worried about bees.
Oh, well, any... Is that him?
No, that's a honeybee.
Okay,
Honeybees are good.
This is the strategy. You go, fuck off. And you hit them in the head, and then they fly off.
So what I've learned about ball-faced hornets is when you hit them in the head, they look at you and they memorize you, and then they have a memory. Because when I ran over that nest here, then they rebuilt the nest, and then they moved down to the creek. I'm in there picking blackberries like this. And they went, hey, there's that guy. Pew! And then I went to the ER with a giant face.
All right, well.
I'll just keep my eyes open.
All right.
He's not mad at me.
Maybe my strategy didn't work, because I'm super cool with crows. I'm like, hey, buddy, how you doing?
Oh, yeah, no, crows will hunt you down.
How's it going? And well, I'll be coming through, like, hey guys.
No, don't mind me, not here to make you mad. All right, well, that was interesting.
Yeah.
If anything else, you got to hear a lot of swearing.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I swear a lot, but also I have two things. Fuck off works with bees, in my experience, and quit fucking around works with the dog. Like, quit fucking around, and I'll be like, all right.
And kids.
Yeah. All right, Jeremy Becker. So, I was using synthetics, and I could not mail the time. See, I'm going to be like this now. The timing correct. I could not mail the timing correctly, and they really messed up my plants. I could not nail the timing, I think is what it meant. My plants, so I wanted to switch back to nectar, and was... What?
Oh, just keep reading. I'm not. So he was on nectar, then he wanted to hammer them with synthetics, and then bring them back to nectar?
I was using synthetics, and I could not nail the timing correctly. So the synthetics weren't working for him, and they really messed up my plants. So I wanted to switch back to nectar, and adding some nectar in there. So he's like hybrid situation here, messed up my plants. Even more, I'm trying to find a solution because I've spent 2.5 months on these girls, and it's been up and down battle, and finally went there, getting big and looking good. Things are going downhill again. Any advice on how to reset the soil I'm using to flush out all the synthetics that I used in the past that were in the soil so I can start new? I was using GH Maxigrow Plus and the addition of GH CalMag. I really don't want my work to be flushed down the toilet and my money, LOL. So he's learning, and he's.
But are we finishing this crop and you're trying to fix soil for the next run? Or are we like mid-bloom?
Yeah, I think he's trying to save these plants, which may be a tough deal.
We need slurry numbers. We need to take a look at what the plants look like. I need to know. I got like 100 questions for you.
This is an ER situation where they roll in there and you got to get the whole blood thing and the panel and the stat and all of that I need more than, There's no general advice in this situation.
I think the starting point until I get your email that tells me the slurry and maybe a picture of what you're seeing is, start with just 2 tablespoons of Herc, pH it to 6.5, flush it until you get a good runoff out of the bottom. Do not let that reabsorb into the plant. Get rid of it, and then get me the info, your slurry numbers, how old they are, as far as like what stage they're in, how much longer they have.
We want this water to run through, no saucer at the bottom, letting it suck back up, and we want to get the soil cleaned out.
Yeah, because you got to get, and if you have SLF, add that in there. You need to digest the synthetic salts that are built up in there. So let's start with the flush, but then give us all that info. Find out what the slurts.
Put some SLF, and would you put some one-shot in here, or is it too late for that? You're late in the game.
First, this is just like, hey, since I'm not going to talk to you until I get your info, just start with Herc and SLF, because we're trying to get rid of the maxi shit, and GH stuff.
And would you foliar feed? To try and
not until I see his plants.
Not until you see what's going on.
I need to see more and understand more before I give bad advice. I like to give bad advice with good knowledge. I like to be educatedly stupid.
So, if you run into these sorts of situations where there's a time as a factor, go to the website and email Scott. Other than doing putting a question on the YouTubes.
Yeah, I'll have more questions on how often you've been feeding them this, and how long have you been feeding them that? So are these like 7-8 weeks on this, or are they just a few weeks on that, or and then why? Did you start with nectar, then go to that, and then coming back to nectar? Just so we can make sure we're getting you the best advice. This isn't we're not judging you on your changing. No. I want to make sure that there's no magic cure just by saying. I just need to know. And
in times of difficulty, it's natural to cast about a bit. You're trying to fix things, and you've maybe made it worse, but we can work you through it. We just need way more details.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think he's moved. Okay, here. So this is now. I believe this was just a comment I put on here. Papa Bear's Pepper Channel. Papa Bear.
Oh yeah.
He said this is because we talked about the Kraken for the peppers.
Yeah.
Someone had asked about that. About should I use the Kraken to stiffen up the thing? We had a long thing. He said Kraken is something I introduced into the feed as my pepper plants are developing their pods. just an extra addition to the nutrient feed table that I believe enhances the overall quality of the pepper.
And this is a guy who's growing like trophy peppers. So
for real.
He's trying to like dial it. I mean, his peppers are your cannabis flowers. He's that meticulous.
And he's experimenting on multiple.
Yeah.
This isn't like he's like, oh, I'll try it on this run. I will try 3 runs of.
Yeah, he gives me actual data that tells me if it's benefit or not a benefit. But no, the Kraken I found on a few things, especially pepper plants, like your standard peppers, you're fine.
I thought you were pointing to my back.
No, I'm pointing at the peppers behind you.
As soon as you pointed right there, I felt a twinge right there. I'm on edge now.
It's a spider. It does help steady up that little bush. Because, I mean, peppers want to be kind of woody and stalk.
Sure.
So it does help them become more rigid and solid. And
But it's also a nutrient for your plant.
Oh, and the soil and your fungal bodies in your soil and your just overall health and protection of the plant. It's very much like a silicate in strength building in the plant cells. But more importantly, you're really just building foundation for the plant to set more fruit. I should try it with my tomatoes because these little cherry tomatoes are so viney.
We got a start and it had just this long stem, and so I put the the thing on it. But still, it's like, reaching for the stars over there, and it's on this, it's on this little vase that it's got this whole insane plant.
Yeah, Kraken might help you there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, it's one, and this is, when you have a bunch of them, they kind of...
Well, if I took one of these out, they'd all fall, because they're all built and grown up together as a foundation, so they definitely do a really good job there.
And you do have the cages on them, and then some windies and all that stuff going on here, but they also support each other.
These are all like cherry tomatoes, so everything on the end is up against one big piece of trellis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then everything else is in its own cage. I do like these vine clips.
Oh, nice. Okay.
They hold the plant to the thing so they can't break down.
I gotcha.
And then I had these old school tomato spirals where you just let it grow up the spiral and it holds it up with some sturdiness, which is kind of cool.
That is neat, because it knows somehow. It kind of. I used to have a grape vine, and it's just like. It's the creepiest thing ever. You just see it just reaching for something and then wrap around it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like the tentacles of a cucumber. They start to do that. Where they just start wrapping and grabbing. And as it's going up, they just, this one's going to put on. So send out another curler and start.
To hang on for that particular guy right there.
Yeah. And then, like over there with our beans, the green beans do the same thing where they just are like, whatever.
They're just after it.
This is one string I put up and there's like 10 vines just.
Oh, and they're so wound around it.
Oh yeah. And now they're actually starting to put on, so we can start harvesting green beans here real soon. Oh.
Nice.
This one is a male. So I juice this now.
Oh, nice.
So with my kale, my broccoli, my cabbage, then I come out here and see it's completely taking stems and defoliating it as I go.
Splitting, it's just going for it.
Yeah, total male plant. 4 I planted outside, 2 came out as dudes. And then that was the garlic, now it's kale.
So you've harvested and started over.
Cycled the new one.
This will go late, right?
This will go all winter now with those.
Okay.
So any place I pull something up that's a summer crop, I plant a fall crop in so I get it all fall and winter.
And they're like a basil or something where you just pick leaves off of them and you just keep them going?
Yeah, once you pick leaves, I'll show you over here that, like if I top one, what it'll do, this kind is the same as this kind. So when I topped it, see how it just grows out of the side all new?
Because you just chopped it off and it just came out like around the fissure.
So here I'll just like probably cut this one off here once I get down to these last ones to juice, and then all these will send out all new ones.
So you were like pick, and then you get down to you just have this snap, and then it goes nuts. Okay, okay.
So I mean these I started in what, February. I juice about 2 pounds of this a day. And that's 5 days a week. So
and still, have you had to supplement from the store, or are you pretty much...
just spinach is the only thing. I can't grow enough spinach in my house, so spinach is the only thing I supplement right now for my juicing. I got my cucumbers, got my kale, got all my lettuce I need, my carrots, which I probably need to plant more carrots, my beets. But yeah, I'm pulling all this stuff up now almost daily. That juice.
Now, what do you do with the tops and stuff? Do you do anything?
Juice 'em.
You can juice those?
Oh yeah, beet tops, parsnip tops, and carrot tops all have nutrition in them. I mean, there's very little goes into the compost anymore, unless it's like when I'm doing beets, I'll take these off and not juice that.
The gross ones, yeah,
disgusting.
yeah.
But, you know, these healthier ones, I found out it was a nutrient imbalance, so I've been hand feeding my beets because they just were struggling and they've come out of it. You can see all the new growth is looking really good.
You say you diagnosed it. How'd you go about that?
Well, I was like, what's wrong with it? And then I
tried
went
some
in
different
there
things.
and the pH was off, and then I was like, oh, you're not getting any of the nitrogen or the
Oh,
really.
so it was a deficiency because of pH, not a deficiency because of it. How did you deal with that in a big old a big old garden?
Heavily watering with food. So I started feeding these things at about 5.9, 6.0 twice a week until I got the soil pH back down into about mid to high sixes. So I think right now we're at about 6.8 in here. They seem to be much happier. I'd like to get closer to 6.3, 6.4. A few more feedings will get us there, but the carrots have been responding quite nicely. So
well, they're beautiful.
yeah, I mean, I'm excited about those because they want to come up. They're too small. I want to pull them up. I mean, that's just too small, but I'm talking about. Taste that.
See, carrots don't taste like carrots in the store. The store carrots don't taste like a carrot.
You want to taste something that doesn't taste like it? Should?
No. Yep.
This will blow you away.
They've got like a green bean. You know what I mean? Like a really like that kind of, except
like
meat.
a mint.
Yeah.
Taste the mint in it?
Yeah. Delicious.
All right. This is celery. Taste that. Strong. Have you ever tasted celery that strong?
No, it's
like a spice.
when you get regular celery that's strong, it's like a pepper kind of. This is not. It's pepper-y kind of, but it's not pepper. It's like
It's like pepper and mustard, and
it's like
it's strong.
you would grate this up and spread it over instead of making it in little chunks.
When you juice this, the amount of like flavor it adds into the whole juice, it's so unique.
And it's dry in a good way.
Yeah, well, it's not overwatered.
Yeah, it's like because you get celery from the store. It's like
Cell water.
yeah.
It's like a bunch of water cells that fixed into a green stem.
And no matter how much flavor it has, it's diluted by that water. Whereas this is like you kind of give us a little, when you swallow.
Too much.
Yeah,
My wife was like, I don't know about it. I'm like, if you
I
like
do.
celery,
This is
this
it.
shit's the stuff. All right, now here's my feed bucket.
So it's some wood and rocks.
And mud. So this much mud in the bottom, and then I put sticks and rock to kind of fill the void, and then I just put in some decorative rocks. But they say not to use clean water because they won't smell it.
It's like a little crick situation going here.
Yep. So, and if you keep them happy, it's funny because most of your stingers are really just aggressive because they're hungry or thirsty.
Yeah,
So
they're
looking
having a
for
bad
stuff.
day.
Yeah, so if you give them the water, you give them the food, they literally coexist with us pretty well, except for those bald-faced hornets. They're just like, I hate everything and everybody, and I'll eat all of you. And they don't have any problem.
They're like hardtail bikers, where they don't have suspension on the back.
Oh, yeah.
They're in a bad mood all the time.
Yep. 20 of those coming down the highway, they'll probably cut your feet off, so.
If they just had soft tails, they'd be such nicer people.
And now we have corn.
Oh, look at the little...
We're so close. It's all tasseled. It's all done. Like right now, I'll just sacrifice one. They're not quite ready. But, so every one of these silks is a kernel. So if you have fresh silk that's still sitting out nice and blonde, I think I have one right here, like that.
Yeah.
There's no kernels on this one yet.
Okay.
But this one, all the pollen hit, one piece of pollen hit every hair, and then when you open it up, you can tell that every kernel's good.
Oh my God.
As you can see,
Yeah.
this kernel goes right into that, or that hair goes into that one kernel.
So this one's like Marilyn Monroe platinum blonde. This one's kind of a blondish, and then you get this one's like a red.
You see the ball going on here. That means they're totally done. So, I mean, they're pollinated.
I gotcha. Of course, yep.
But they're not quite done yet. Oh, so sweet.
Why do we cook this?
I don't. It doesn't go in our house. We eat out here. Oh my God, I had one 2 days ago that was not done yet. This is done. This is perfect.
It's like real vegetables all taste the same in a good way. They've all got that kind of vegetable-y flavor that you lose when you go to the store and get stuff. It's just not the same.
Well, you don't, when you get it from the store, you never got it mature.
Yeah.
They harvested it so premature that the nutrition's not even there, and some of them were harvested like apples. They're harvested last year, and they were sprayed with something that keeps them green until you get them. This corn. You know what I'm doing for dinner tonight? Buying more corn.
Good Lord. Okay. I had a show?
I think so.
That's your show. I love you.
The OCGFAM show is pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCGFAM show. See you tomorrow.